We are live now. How's it going, everybody? Unfortunately, I found some things out today. I'm going to adjust this just a little bit because it seems that every time I sit in my chair again, things mess up. Yay. Hope you guys are doing all right today. I know that it's weird. I'm going live at the exact same time as Non-Sex Show. That is not on purpose. That is just because we had to install a dryer, and I was supposed to start streaming an hour ago, and I'm horrible at this, and literally everything keeps on breaking and catching on fire. That said, speaking of things that are breaking and catching on fire, I have wonderful news, everybody. Water no longer works in my house. That is great. So that's cool. If anybody in the chat is familiar with well water, or how to functionally fix a well that has a corroded switch, that would be awesome. Please send me a DM because I need to know how to fix that, because we need water. We don't have water right now. That's great. So yeah, no, that's a thing. That's a thing that I figured that you all should know going into this, that Cyrus has no water in his house now. Because everything has to break, of course. But that all said, hope you guys are having a wonderful time. We are not going to be covering a great topic today, unfortunately, because as the United States decides to regress further and further and allow more Christian-inspired bills, basically. As much as I did not want to become a channel that talked about politics. I did not. But unfortunately, when you are tackling religious issues, they seem to dovetail into politics so often. And I now live in the world where I live in a state where a lot of Christian legislation has caused some problems. So, of course, here we are, which is great. Not what I wanted to do. But I live in that world now. Yay. My favorite. That all said, a few things that I wanted to say before we get into the stream. One, I forgot to put the fan art in the last stream. It completely slipped my mind because I did the stream whilst incredibly tired. So that was a mistake. But yeah, no, fan art did not get in. I need to go ahead and take care of that. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to make a fan art folder real quick on here. So, because I did not get the fan art in there, I'm going to have to start out this stream with the fan art that was submitted throughout the course of the last stream, and go ahead and let you guys see all of that fun stuff, because a lot of good stuff was submitted during that time. The first thing that was submitted during the course of that stream, or at least I believe that this was submitted during the stream, this one is from Moonflower X3, and it is an interesting one. As soon as I can get my... Oh boy, why is everything breaking? Can something please not break today? That'd be great. Boom. There we are. This one is from Moonflower X3, and this was submitted, I believe, during the course of last stream. So, of course, I have to make sure that it is put in there. So that is the first one that is there for everybody to see. The next one that was submitted over the course of last time is from Kadama. Kadama has been a long-time watcher of my channel. It is a Minecraft skin that I believe if you contact them, they will be able to let you use. If not, the skin is in my fan art section for you to grab as well. So, this is that one, because I'm already a cringy person. Why not also include Minecraft? So here we are. We'll go ahead and get these two side by side. And there. All right, the next one that we have that was submitted during the course of last stream, I'm paying for my sins currently. This one is definitely me paying for my sins. This one is from, let me make sure that I've got it right there. This one is from PST Talks Thick. They have made some very strange fan art of me in the past. This one is my avatar saying, "Bro, this is me when I'm traumatized. This is definitely me when I'm traumatized." And Disco Scone submitted one as well. This one is a Femsurus, because I can never escape Femsurus. It's just a reality of my channel now. We all know that. But this one is Femsurus with hair as short as I get my hair whenever I actually shave it. So there's that. We'll go ahead and cut off the edges here so that we can fit more fan art in over the course of the episode. There we go. Boom. And finally, it looks like that is everything that was submitted throughout the course of that stream. So, I've caught up on that. I've paid for my sins. I'm sorry, everybody. I should have done my due diligence, but I am a bad YouTuber. I am bad at this. I could have done much better, and I didn't. I'm horrible. So, that is fixed now. That is taken care of. We now have everything there. So, that all said, we have somebody in there I care more about. Okay, so I see that we have I am Ace2354 in the chat. You are definitely welcome. You're definitely welcome to your opinion and to speak in the factor, or speak on the topic, but I disagree with you 110%, and I can get into that if I would like to. Kadama says, you chose the dabbing one. Of course you would. Well, you knew I would. I had to. If we're going to go cringe, we're going to go maximum cringe. We have to. We absolutely have to. Also, hopefully tomorrow, when we do... I think tomorrow we're going to be doing Hammered Out. I'm not 100% certain. I hope we do. That would be cool if we do. But if we can get Hammered Out going tomorrow, you guys should see the studio in a semi-completed form, finally, maybe, hopefully. If that's a thing that can happen, I would be very happy. So, let's get into this. A little bit of backstory for what's going on here. The person we are dealing with today is Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is the former U.S. ambassador. She was ambassador for 2017-2018, appointed by... do I have to say his name on stream? I kind of do. Trump. So she was appointed by him as the United States ambassador. This is somebody who Trump thought was a good person to represent the United States to other countries. I just want to throw that out there as a first thing that needs to be said, because I may or may not have a point or two that rests on that fact. We don't quite know yet. This video itself is 15 minutes long. It's rather long, but I'm going to try my best to get through it. On top of the length of the video, this is her speaking at the Susan B. Anthony area, and she's essentially speaking to a group of pro-lifers and reinforcing their bias on pro-life. That's basically what we're doing here. So, that all said, we can get in there. HistoryNet says that I interviewed the CEO of Secular Pro-Life. Interesting. All right. Let us go and click the thing, because, of course, we're talking about something that's totally not controversial whatsoever.
Thank you so much. What a great room. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marjorie, for your commitment, strength, and heart. You are an inspiration to so many, and we all appreciate your efforts.
This is your standard thing that you have to do whenever you're giving a speech in front of a group of benefactors. It's a little boring, but you do have to do your thanks. You do have to do all that stuff. It's not terribly important to what we're getting into. Also, I see that... who was it in chat? Tada said, I just got here. Can I get a recap? We actually do not have anything that has been said so far. All that has been done is I've put the fan art up that I was not able to submit over the course of the last stream because I was an idiot. That has been put up. Also, chat down there is actually working now. Which fingers is it? These fingers. There we go. Chat down there. There. Chat is over that way. Now that I know, I'm going to forget next stream. But yeah, no, chat is working again, which is great. I'm very happy that chat is working. Because it sucks when I can't have that there, especially because it makes it easier to keep up with what's been going on in the video. So, let us continue the video itself.
And thank you to everyone in this room. I am so grateful to you, not just for being here tonight, but for showing up and fighting every single day. Each of you is doing something extraordinary.
Are they, though?
You're saving lives. So thank you.
Okay, so this is the standard pro-life position, that you are saving life, therefore it is good. There's a few things that we're not going to be doing in this stream. I may dip into them possibly, but I don't think it's going to be relevant. There's a few talking points that we hear a lot from the pro-life or for people who are against the pro-life position, and I don't think they're terribly helpful. One is when somebody says they're pro-life, but they are also for the death penalty. These are categorically separate things, so I don't find it terribly convincing when somebody says that, oh, well, you're so pro-life, why are you pro the death penalty? The only time that I think that talking point actually matters is when we're talking about the Texas legislation that tried to get passed, where the death penalty was something that the doctor and or the mother, or potential mother in some cases, could suffer for aborting. I think when it's brought up in that context, then I think it's relevant. But when somebody says I'm pro-life, but they're also pro-death penalty, pro-life is a position that you take on a singular issue. The death penalty is also a position you take on a singular issue. They're categorically separate. It may seem like it's cognitive dissonance, but I don't find that it's a terribly convincing point whenever it's used against pro-lifers.
The pro-life movement is a noble cause. It's also a thankless cause.
As it should be.
That's because the people you are fighting for aren't in a position to thank you. They are the voiceless ones. We are their voice.
Okay, so I love the rhetoric that has happened here. This is something that's, I want to say this is more recent, maybe the last 20 years. But the "we are the voice of the voiceless" rhetoric is something that I hear a lot from the pro-life side. And it's really nice and compelling, and it stirs the inside feeling stuff. And it's kind of the problem here, is that all it really does, like all it really functionally does, is it stirs up the inside emotions. It doesn't actually make an appeal to any particular argument, and it's not particularly, whatchamacallit, what's the word for it? It's not terribly convincing in that it's only an emotional argument. There are some instances where I think emotional arguments are cool. They can be useful, but I don't think that this is one where it has a decent bit of utility. That's just me, though. That all said, MJ Sketchy, I do see that you are in the fan art section. I don't think that you are. You might be watching. I'm not 100% certain. But for fan art to be featured throughout the course of a stream, it has to be submitted during that stream. Unless, of course, I'm an idiot and I didn't feature something, and then I have to put it in at the beginning of a new stream, because Cyrus is a horrible person. Aside from that, fan art gets featured essentially at random in future videos. Whenever it gets featured, it is literally chosen at random. I have a big grab bag of stuff that has not been presented. After I feature it, it goes into a folder called Presented. So that is a thing. Also, Dead Boy just subscribed. Thank you for the subscription, Dead Boy. I have to and let's go.
There's little recognition in this struggle and little glory. In fact, the opposite is typically true. Many, if not all of you, have endured more than your fair share of name-calling and abuse.
Okay, so let's talk about that point right there. So it's so horrible that the pro-lifers have to take name-calling and abuse. However, I think it's a non-starting point. If you're going to use that as a method to rile up your audience, I think your audience needs to understand that is a thing that happens on both sides. Because if you've ever seen videos of what happens in especially southern states when you try to go to a Planned Parenthood, otherwise, or a place called an abortion clinic, if you try to go to any of those areas, a lot of time there are protesters that are literally sitting outside that are hammering you and trying to rile up your emotions in your effort to actually get in and speak. Not speak, but get in and either get tested or, get an abortion. So by saying that, oh, you have suffered abuse, oh, you've done this, no, that's the thing that both sides suffer. So I don't find it a terribly convincing starting point for anything.
especially in this town. There is an old Talmudic saying which has been repurposed countless times. It goes something like this: whoever destroys a single life has destroyed the whole world.
And that's wonderful, but does your audience here actually understand what the Talmud is? Do they get it? Because if they do, then they might also understand that that's not terribly convincing, especially here in the rural South. I'm sorry, but usually, and like I don't like appeals to the Bible here, but usually appeals to the Bible function much better. Just saying. Otherwise, I could be that guy that just says, there is an old Norse epic that says this, and I'm sure that I would get at least one Christian in the audience to have a bit of a spasm up their spine while they try to come to grips with something they may or may not agree with that doesn't come from their Bible. But that's just me.
And whoever saves a single life has saved the whole world.
Let's talk about that. Let's now that we've got that sentence in its entirety, let's talk about that for a second. So, destroying a life destroys the entire world. But saving a life saves the entire world. Okay, that's a wonderful principle to hold in the back of your mind, but it gets really awkward whenever you bring the military in. Just saying. Because there are several lives taken by service members in militaries, and there are multiple lives saved by service members in militaries. So it seems like your point and position, when applied to literally anything else, screws up. Not to mention, if you actually apply it to the woman as well, if you apply it here, you may actually be ruining the life of a person just so you can add one number to the amount of people that exist in this world, which isn't terribly great. Like, let's be honest here. As me as a person, I would not want somebody who does not want a child to raise one. If you are going to go for an abortion, you either do not want a child, or you are in a position where even if you may want the child, you may not feel like you can actually take care of that child, or a myriad of other issues. I do not want the person that either feels like they cannot do it or does not want to do it taking care of that child. And I also do not want that child in the foster system, because our foster system, especially here in the United States, is absolutely bumfucked. Given that those two state of affairs are there, I think the only logical conclusion is to allow for termination, to improve the life of the mother. The person who's literally there and breathing and exists currently, as opposed to the other person that is just potential.
Think about the magnitude of that for a moment.
It's
Every
artificial
new
magnitude.
life has limitless potential. Each baby saved.
Ooh! I didn't even know that she was going to. I didn't even know she was going to go into the potential thing. The potential doesn't matter. The potential of a person does not matter. It is what they do that matters. I could potentially be a serial killer. I could potentially find myself in a position where I wanted to go full Dexter without being virtuous. That is something I have the potential to do. I also have the potential, possibly, to find a cure for cancer. Every human has these innate potentials, or potentialities. Every human has the potential for good and evil. A human having potential, or a fetus having potential, even I can grant personhood to the fetus, doesn't matter, does not matter for anything.
Could grow up to be a doctor, a teacher, a first responder.
Could grow up to be a serial killer or a rapist. Potential doesn't matter. Potential means anything. Potential means it could be... The child could grow up to be Charles Manson. The child could grow up to be another Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin. The child could grow up to be another Donald Trump. It functionally does not matter that the child could grow up to be good, because it functionally does not matter that the child could grow up to do evil.
Even a public official. When you save one life, you set an entire universe in motion. That's what brings all of us together.
You also may hinder the entire universe for a single person. You may actually stop the... Let's run a thought experiment. Just a second. Just a quick, fun and dirty thought experiment. Okay? You to me. So we're going to take this potentiality argument, all right? We're going to take this. What's the thing that we hear? Oh, you could have had cancer cured, but a child... Oh, we have someone in the chat. A child could completely grow up and be a Matt Powell. Yeah, no, that's true. So let's run the thought experiment. A child has the potential to cure cancer. Let's say that. But what if, and this is something that happens in reality, so it's not even a freaking reductio, this is just a thing that happens in reality as a standard. So let's take a woman who is pregnant, and she is in her 3rd year of medical school. And let's go ahead and say, if we're going to use this potentiality thing, let's go ahead and create a timeline for fun. Let's create a timeline where this woman actually does cure all forms of cancer. She manages to find a cure for lung cancer, and then she takes that same methodology and applies it to finding a cure for all forms of brain cancer. Then she moves it to all forms of skin cancer, and just down the road. But that universe can't come to fruition because in this universe, instead of being able to get an abortion and focus on her studies and then have a child later in life when she is more prepared and has already gotten out of school and is not having to spend so much time taking care of a child, she instead is forced to carry to term and is forced to be a mother because she's a well-educated person. She understands what the foster care system is. She understands that it's a fucked up place. So instead of putting her child in the foster care system, which we know leads, statistically, kids in foster care have a higher chance of becoming criminals because, the system's screwed up. It really is. So let's go ahead and say that this mother becomes a mother now, as opposed to 12 years later, as she originally planned. And now she can no longer cure cancer. Let's go ahead and do that little argument that pro-lifers like to do where this child could have become a doctor and could have cured cancer. Cool. The mother who was educating herself to do that very thing now cannot do that very thing because 18 years of her life are now on lockdown. The argument works both ways, and because of that, it's a non-argument.
That's what Susan B. Anthony List is all about. So I say without an ounce of exaggeration, you are doing God's work, making our world a better place.
And there is the appeal to the religious audience. Because it is much harder. It happens, but it is much harder to find an atheist who is pro-life than it is to find a Christian who is pro-life. Granted, there was one in the audience today. I don't know if they're still there. If they are, awesome. Hi. This is probably a stream that you need to hear because differing opinions, whether or not you decide to change your stance, they're just good to hear in general. The same reason that I have freaking Hugh Ross audiobooks. Because why not? That all said, typically, your Christian audience is going to be a pro-life audience. Your atheist audience is usually pro-choice. It's weird how that works, but it functionally is how things are. So, of course, you're going to appeal to that Christian audience.
I stand here tonight as a wearer of many hats: ambassador, governor, daughter, military wife, mother, and the biggest Clemson Tiger fan ever. You think I'm joking. I'm not. Ask Coach Davo. All of these titles are part of my identity. All of these experiences have shaped my values and my connection to the world. They are indispensable to my story, and they're the reason I stand before you tonight.
Okay.
Many of you know I am married to my incredible, super cool husband, Michael. He is a combat veteran and a major in the South Carolina National Guard.
I wish you could actually speed up Facebook videos, but you can't, as far as I know. I tried to find this video on YouTube.
He is truly a saint, and being married to me, you know he has to be exceedingly understanding. But many don't know that Michael and his 4 siblings spent several years in foster care.
Oh!
Foster care can be amazing, but it was not kind to Michael and his siblings. It was unkind. Luckily, when Michael was 5, he and his younger sister were adopted by a kind, loving couple who couldn't have children of their own. I often think about what would have happened if Michael hadn't been so lucky, if his biological mother had chosen a different path.
Hello? Are you trying to plug up?
Yeah.
Are you? Okay. So I find this kind of disgusting. Not the fact that Raz just walked in with a spool of land wire. That's not the thing that I find.
Disgusting!
No, that's not the thing that I find disgusting. What I find disgusting is the fact that the state of the foster care system is one of the reasons I am pro-choice. Because I don't think that I would personally want to put a child through the foster care system.
Oh, Jesus, no.
Because of that, and because of my stance regarding the foster care system, I would find that to be an argument well in the favor of somebody who's pro-choice, not being used as a stepping block for somebody who's pro-life. Are you?
I'm showing off this glorious spool of Ethernet cable because
Yeah, we just have a spool of Cat 6 just sitting here.
Well, you see, I wanted to show to you, right, that I am also pro-choice. The choice to use Ethernet over Wi-Fi, you heathens. I know you.
So are you planning on running that wire over the just over the floor?
We don't have anything else for me to do with it, so
We have duct tape.
I don't want to duct tape the new walls. They're so pretty.
If I trip over it, I'm suing. I'm kidding.
Jeez.
I'm kidding. I am kidding. Oh boy. So, my point being that I actually have lost my point. It's gone. I had one. I have no idea where it has gone. The point is gone, everybody. I have lost it.
If his adoptive parents hadn't been so compassionate. In politics, people assume that if you're Republican, you're pro-life, because that's what the party tells you to be. I'm pro-life because I get the chance to spend every day with my husband knowing that I am blessed.
Okay, so what is that? You're literally just saying I'm pro-life because reasons, not I'm pro-life because Republican. This is again a non-starter. We don't get anything from that.
Many of you also might not know that Michael and I struggled to have a family of our own. We are blessed to be the parents of 2 smart, thoughtful, occasionally challenging children.
Aww.
But that path was not an easy one for us. Like so
does
many
that-
other couples and families, we struggled for many years, riding
Okay.
a roller coaster of false hopes and painful disappointment. Throughout the slog of doctor visits,
Did anyone else hear the audio change randomly there? Hello.
Put it in perspective. I used all of it.
You have unspooled my hopes and dreams, child.
I mean, I thought that's what this video was doing.
No, this is just making me disappointed in being a human.
I thought you were already that.
Well, that's true. but I'm reinforcing that to myself.
Alright, do you need a drink?
I still have some drink. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
An invasive test. I had days that tested my faith and my
Yeah. So if God factors in, let me go ahead. I'm going to throw something by you guys for fun. If you are a Christian, especially if you are a Christian who believes in the age of reason, then the most ethical choice is actually the pro-choice position, because the ultimate goal for a Christian should be to be saved or get other people saved, get people into heaven. Functionally, that should be the best thing. There's also, being a living example of Christ. That's a thing you should be able to do as well if you are a Christian, as opposed to being somebody like the Matt Powells of the world. If you are a Christian who is closer to what Jesus was as opposed to what Matt Powell and Steven Anderson and that ilk are, then congratulations. We can probably be pretty good friends on that. My point, though, is that if you are a Christian, I feel like you should actually be pro-choice. Because if a child is aborted, I'm just going to go ahead and say child, not going to say fetus, I'm not going to say any of that. We're just going to grant full personhood for this one. If it is aborted, that's a one-way ticket to heaven, because it never had a choice as to whether or not to be saved. Especially if you believe in the age of reason, or the age of accountability. So, if you believe that it should have a chance at life, then you believe that it should have a chance at burning for all eternity in hell by choosing not to be a Christian, or choosing not to get saved. Whereas aborting guarantees that. So it seems very antithetical to the Christian ethos to be to be pro-life, or anti-choice rather. So, there's my 2 cents.
my resolve. But when I held our daughter in my arms for the first time, I felt what countless parents feel, that nothing could be more perfect and right in the world. These experiences, the good and the bad, solidified for me what I had known long ago intellectually, that each and every life is a gift from God, that so many loving families want more than anything to raise and love a child. Mm-hmm. I can't stomach the idea that we wouldn't do everything in our power to protect and nurture those lives.
Except you don't, because the pro-life position is not a position that also includes helping the mother through things that she's going to have to go through with the pregnancy. There are some pregnancy crisis centers where you can get stuff for like the first 6 months or so. But I'm sorry, you're going to be raising that child for a lot more than that. I would say that instead of just being anti-abortion, which is what the pro-life position is, it's just anti-abortion. As opposed to that, you should be able to also fight for legislation that will make it so that a mother who did not have the financial means to raise her child will not be crippled for life because of having to take on another mouth to feed for the next 18 to 20 years. This would include making sure that health care for both the mother and the child are free. If you're gonna force her to carry to term, then you might as well at least make sure that her medical expenses are something that is on you. Secondly, on top of that, food should also be something that is considered, because if this is an unwanted pregnancy, you might want to be able to take care of this. Also, please factor in as well parents who did not want to be parents in the first place. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe there are some studies that show that they end up becoming certain forms of abusive. They can be. So just factor that in as well as something to rotate around. So there is that. Also, we seem to have an abortion as a choice you should not give a crap about. I mean, yeah, basically. I'm of the opinion that if it's not your body, then you don't really get a say in it. But unfortunately, there are people that think that they should, like this person here. So there's that.
As governor of South Carolina, I was proud to sign legislation that banned late-term abortions, protecting babies.
She was happy to do that.
Protecting babies from the point in their development where they are capable of feeling pain. Many people praised this action, but many others criticized it.
Yes, because you took the momentary pain of the fetus, the pain that it would feel for 10, 15, 20 seconds, maybe, depending on how long the actual process takes, which varies depending on what complications you're dealing with. You're taking those few seconds of pain and viewing them as higher and much more important than the pain that the mother is going to have to go through in birthing, throughout the course of her pregnancy, the financial instability that she will have to deal with because of this. The poverty margin in the United States is growing ever wider. So, no, I don't find the pain argument terribly convincing from the pro-life side, because you're taking a handful of seconds or a handful of minutes of pain and saying that those are more valuable by merit of them being the pain of the fetus than the mother who's going to have to suffer for years. So, no. I don't find that to be a terribly convincing thing. Also, Purple Champ Productions in the chat did just say if a 16-year-old wants to adopt a child, she can't because she's too young. But if she gets pregnant, especially if she happens to get pregnant in a rural area that does not have very good sexual education, so this may not necessarily be something that she understands. There's also another side to this, kind of a gross side that I don't want to get into, but that we could make this situation a little more gross. And no, it does not involve... it kind of involves... it kind of involves other things. I'm not going to get this as dark as I can. I could make this conversation quite dark, but I'm not going to. My point that I was saying is that, so a 16-year-old wants to adopt a child, she can't because she's too young, but apparently if she gets pregnant at 15 and then would give birth at 16, she's old enough to have to not only be forced to carry that child to term, but also deal with all the pain that would have to come with that, and possibly drop out of school, lose the ability to have an education. Deal with all of that because not everybody has a supporting family to fall back on. So, you know. Let's just also, yeah, let's also point out that there's an argument that people say is like, hey, if you wear protection, it's not going to happen. First of all, condoms and the birth control pill, or any method of birth control, none of them are 100% effective, and abstinence is a horrible argument. Anybody who's studied psychology for any amount of time can tell you this. I had a episode about abstinence-only education a long time ago on my channel. This was a multi-group discussion where we invited anybody who was pro-choice or pro-life to come in and have that conversation with us. If they were pro-life or they were pro-abstinence only education, they should come in and they should bring that information to bear in a conversation again with us. And I posted it on Twitter because there were several people on Twitter who were telling me at that time that abstinence-only education was good and functional, and I invited them specifically. I said, you guys can come into this conversation. And we spent 2 hours circle jerking because nobody decided they wanted to come in and have that chat. So, here we are. So, anywho. Point being, it's very awkward that we live in a world that, by merit of a fetus being in a body, as opposed to already having been birthed a couple years ago, we do actually have different standards over whether or not a 16-year-old should be able to have a child. You know, weird. John Obbins' question, does the law bill include the use of the morning after pill? No. It doesn't have anything on use of the morning after pill. The Alabama legislation allows for anything in the 6-week period. Not to mention the morning after pill is not an abortion method. It's actually a contraceptive method. It prevents fertilization of the egg. It is functionally different than an abortion pill.
The most strident attacks came from my fellow women.
Of course.
You've heard it all before.
Because you were trying to legislate against them and their bodies.
Pro-life women are traitors to their gender.
Yes, you
If
are.
we truly care about women's rights, we would support abortion rights.
Yes, that's
Women
true.
are expected to support choice, simply because we're women.
Yes. It's... Who here in my audience is part of the trans community? Trans in any way, shape, or form? If you are, there is a concept in the trans community that I think should be applied further out. And it is the concept of true scum. If you... true scum, for the trans community, if anybody who's here is not part of that community does not know, true scum is somebody who, whilst being trans, whilst being non-cis, actively argues against people who are non-cis, or does things like what Blair White does. Where Blair White, when Blair White looks like she was born a cis female. She looks that way. From what I understand, she has not had bottom surgery, but that doesn't matter. You don't need a penis to be a male. You don't need a vagina to be a female. I don't give a shit about any of that. Point is, if Blair White walks into a female bathroom, female bathrooms have stalls, nobody's going to know that there's anything there in the bottom. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to care. It's not going to matter. However, Blair White has said on her channel that she is willing to accept that people aren't comfortable with her going into the bathroom, so she's not going to do it. She'll go into the male bathroom instead. That is something that someone who is a true scum does, where you actively argue against the rights of the side that you personally are. I think that concept needs to be extended further out. For instance, take someone like Jesse Lee Peterson. He's a white nationalist. Or a white supremacist who is in favor of an ethno-state, which to me is a white nationalist, but he's not himself white. He's African American. He literally, instead of arguing something that would be pro-African American for him, he just goes, no, we're all shitty people, white people are great, Trump is the great white hope. That's what he does. He is functionally... he's a wonderful tool for white supremacists, the same way that Blair White is a wonderful tool for transphobes. That's the concept of true scum. I think that concept needs to be extended further if possible.
That's just wrong. We all have to be true to ourselves and to others. Unfortunately, many on the left use the abortion debate to divide women.
Many on the left use the abortion debate to divide women. No, we don't use the abortion debate to divide women. We use the abortion debate in order to empower women. Because legislation that is specifically only for and against women is wrong. It's antithetical to equal rights. The mere fact that there is not something equivalent that a man has or a cis man has in their body that can be dealt with in the same way does not mean that it is not still an infringement of equal rights when we take that unique thing and legislate against it.
And demand conformity. They do this in the name of feminism. But that is not real feminism.
Really?
The idea that women must adhere to a particular set of values is one of the most anti-women ideas in today's culture.
All right, fuck ass. Okay, cool. No, sorry, the insults are coming out. Nikki Haley here is being an ignorant fuck ass, and she's arguing to an audience of ignorant fuck asses in order to... what's the word I'm looking for? In order to allow them to have a confirmation bias because they are ignorant fuck asses. Here's why. Feminism has always been a consistent ideology in its various ways. For instance, let's take second wave feminism, which, as far as I'm aware, as far as I remember, second wave feminism was primarily focused on the right to vote. So let's take second wave feminism. If there was someone who identified themselves as a second wave feminist, but said that they do not believe that women should have a right to vote, Nikki's argument here is going to be that, well, by saying that they don't need to adhere to this particular ideology, or by saying they need to adhere to this particular ideology, the ideology that, or the idea that women should have the right to vote, that's anti-feminist. No. The person over there who is saying that women shouldn't vote and identifies as a feminist is being anti-feminist and is in fact being whatever word we want to use for true scum that is not part of the trans community. That's what they're being. That's what they're doing. You're trying to make an argument against gatekeeping, and I get it. Gatekeeping is horrible. It's stupid. Gatekeeping is a bad thing. But when you say, it's like somebody saying, I'm a Christian, but I don't believe in Christ. No, that is what is antithetical to the idea of feminism. Believing that women should not have autonomy and integrity for their... I'm gonna try to start using the word integrity because I actually read an article from Cambridge that argued that integrity is actually a more apt term than autonomy for this. But I may use them interchangeably for a while. It is antithetical to the idea of feminism that there should be equal rights for a woman to not, or for women to not be able to have autonomy or an integrity for their own body. What I'm also saying in that is that there's no point in time where the fetus gains rights over the woman's body. That should not be a thing, but apparently pro-lifers think it should be. So, that's just me.
It is a rejection of the ideas of equality and tolerance that the women's movement is supposed to be all about.
What? Let's try that again.
Adhere to a particular set of values is one of the most anti-women ideas in today's culture. It is a rejection of the ideas of equality and tolerance that the women's movement is supposed to be all about.
No. That's not functionally how that is at all. So yes, there should be a certain level of tolerance there. I agree with that 110%. But it is not intolerant for a woman to be allowed to exercise the principles of pro-choice. That's not intolerance. Intolerance is actually using any form of theism to say that someone else who may or may not share your theistic values should have the God-given baby no matter what.
Pro-life female governor, I was blessed with a unique platform, and I made every effort to use it appropriately. Not to lob attacks at people who disagreed with me. Not to diminish the other side, but to reframe the debate. To explain that being pro-life is not about being for or against women.
Yes, it is, actually. Being pro-life is literally being against women's bodily integrity. That's what it is. I'm sorry, but you can't say that, oh no, it's not this thing, but then literally everything that position is about functionally ends in that thing.
It's about being for a baby's right to live, the most basic right there is.
Yes. And bodily integrity and autonomy are also very basic rights. They are the rights that prevent people from being able to just punch you in the face, because that would violate your body's bodily integrity. That would invite your rights to someone not invading your body. Yet we can do it with legislation because it's a special case, which is special pleading, which is fallacious, which is stupid.
As U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, I was privileged to travel to many corners of the globe.
And you learned nothing in doing so. Excellent.
Saw many wonderful things, But I also saw some horrible things that I cannot unsee. I heard stories that linger in my memory. In Syrian refugee camps, I saw what happened when the war criminal Bashar Assad used chemical weapons to murder and maim innocent children.
We're going to bring up war crimes and chemical weapons as a juxtaposition to abortion. Okay.
In South Sudan, I sat with crying mothers who told me the horror stories about how soldiers took their babies from their arms and threw them into fires.
Which is not functionally what happens with abortion.
In the Congo, I talked to boys who had been captured at young, vulnerable ages and put into the horrible life of child soldiers. In Venezuela, on the Simon Bolivar Bridge, I watched parents and children walk for hours, each way in the blazing sun, to get the only meal they would get that day, given to them by the Catholic Church just on the other side of the border in Colombia. There are starving children digging through trash cans looking for food.
And do you know what would actually help a lot of that? Fewer children. If this were something happening in the United States, which it does happen in the United States, the fact that horrible things have happened in other countries, though, that does not do anything for your point. You are literally you're trying to get your audience teary-eyed. You're trying to get them going, it's horrible. It's so sad. Won't somebody think of the children? Well, guess what? We are, but we also have to think of the mothers. What happens in other countries, especially to children who are already alive, has no bearing on whether or not you should be allowed to legislate against women's bodily integrity here in the United States.
I have seen places where life has been incredibly cheapened. It will always haunt me. So,
I can only assume now you're trying to say that because this comparison between abortion and war crimes is happening, that is a thing that cheapens life, and therefore a woman having a right to an abortion cheapens life. It cheapens the life of the fetus. This is a wonderfully emotionally engaging argument. However, it really doesn't have a whole lot of bearing in reality. It doesn't matter at all if life is cheap or expensive. It means nothing. Ultimately, if somebody could pay a hitman to kill me with $2 tomorrow, or somebody had to pay for $20,000 to end my life, the cheapness or the worth of my life would ultimately have no bearing on anything. I would be gone, and that would be it. There's no functionality to trying to put a worth on a human life.
All across the globe, I have spoken with mothers and fathers who would risk everything just to have a chance at life for themselves and for their children.
Yeah, and that doesn't do anything. Also, Neil Stone in the chat. So what we're doing right now is we are going over Nikki Haley, who was the former United States ambassador appointed by Trump. She is speaking to Susan B. Anthony List and is doing a presentation on why she's pro-life, and she's essentially talking to this audience and just stroking their emotions on the pro-life side. That's really all this is. And as far as I understand, Hitchens was pro-life. I'm fairly certain. Let's see. Yeah, no. As far as I am aware, as far as I can tell, Christopher Hitchens was in fact pro-life. This is one of the many things in which I disagree with Christopher Hitchens. I also disagree with Christopher Hitchens when he says that religion poisons everything. I don't think that it does, especially considering that there are several pros and cons to it. If you look at that situation with nuance, you can find probably several more examples where religion is harmful, but you will not find that it poisons practically everything. Also, yeah, no. Hitchens being pro-life is something that I vehemently disagree with. But that's fine, because that is the point of being an open thinker. Is there can be people that everyone respects and everybody puts on a pedestal as a hero, and I can agree or disagree with any fucking thing that comes out of his mouth. Not only is she a Trump supporter, Neil, she was appointed by Trump to be the United States ambassador. The integrity versus autonomy thing, let me see here. I need to search in general chat on my Discord real quick, because I believe I will find it here. Maybe I will. Aha! Here we are. Cambridge Core. Jump to this particular article. I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy up. So the Cambridge article that makes the case for integrity being the working term as opposed to autonomy in many of these cases, I will go ahead and link for you here in the chat real quick. There you are. Boom. It's a Cambridge Core journal. It's pretty heavy, dense reading, but I do find it to be decently convincing in this regard. And Trickster in the chat, disagreement is not bad or good. It depends on how it's resolved. I agree. Disagreement can be resolved horribly, or disagreement can be resolved positively. It just depends on how one conducts themselves there. Were Hitchens still alive, and I had the opportunity to speak with him, I would like to speak with him on the abortion topic. That is something that I would enjoy having a conversation with him with. Unfortunately, Hitchens is no longer with us, so that's nothing I can really do.
These people are suffering because of war, dictatorship, disease, and abject poverty.
Abject poverty. Do you know what goes up when you increase abortion, or when you remove access to safe abortions? You increase abject poverty. You actively make that situation worse for people.
They are a devastating reminder of the evil that exists in the world. It is the reason we should all step back and remember to be grateful, because on our worst day, we are blessed to live in America.
Multiple Stripes says, are you playing League in the background? I am not playing League in the background. I do actually have League running in the background, which is why that popped up. Somebody sent me my friend Blue, who's been on one or two videos before in the Google Hangouts, sent me an invite to a game, but I cannot join because I am doing this. So it's not a thing I can do.
America is a place where life is valued and protected. And yet today, in this country, our leaders debate whether a baby born after a failed abortion has a right to live. Let that sink in for just a minute.
Okay. What does that functionally change? An abortion fails, which, let's find something here for fun. Let us see here. Continued pregnancy. Abstract, 46 patients with unintentional continued pregnancy were detected. Amongst a series of 65,000 first trimester abortions, patients at greatest risk are those with early pregnancy and those with marked uterine anteversion and retroversion with uterine anomaly. Attention to... let's scroll down here. Okay, so this is a thing that happens. That's a thing. I only need it happening once. I've made the point several times that the mere fact that a situation happens on a minority scale does not take away the legitimacy of the situation. So I did want to go ahead and check PubMed to see if there was anything in here on this happening. It is in fact a thing that happens. Just wanted to make sure I fact checked myself there. So Yes, if we are having the conversation as to whether or not a child who was born after an abortion was failed, we have to take in a few things into consideration. First of all, what type of abortion are we talking about? There's an abortion that happens with a pill or a chemically induced abortion. There's an abortion that will happen where you try to do the whole forceps thing. That's the gross one that pro-lifers use for the emotional argument. By the way, the forceps one, I'm sorry, that one's not going to fail. That one's probably not going to fail. The chemically induced ones can fail. Typically, with a chemically induced abortion, if it fails and the woman gives birth, once that child, my opinion, once that child is no longer part of the woman's body, then I think that child's right to live is perfectly there. Like it sucks, but to be consistent, my argument is about bodily integrity, which means that whilst that child is attached to the mother, or to the woman, if you don't even want to call them a mother because they haven't had their child yet, whilst the child is attached, during that time, I feel like the mother should have full volition, full control, full everything. Once it is separate, it becomes a responsibility. That's my take, my personal take. You guys can disagree with me there, but I feel like that's the logically consistent route to take.
It is something you might hear about in other parts of the world, or something out of a horror movie. Not here. Not in America.
I do like this. This isn't something we should be talking about here, not in America. Let's go ahead and use that exact point, and let's use it for something else, something different, something maybe a little more messy. You would think that a woman being forced to carry to term a child that she had because her father raped her, you would think that that is something that you should only hear about in places like Saudi Arabia or in other places in the world that do not care about women's rights, but not here in America. Except that's what the Alabama bill allows for. It doesn't allow special circumstances for rape and incest, and I just combined the two for a perfect storm. I'm sorry, this not in America point can be used for the pro-choice side to much greater effect. Sorry, no.
In so many other aspects of human life, that's a priority for our country. Think of the lengths we go to defend the rights of the accused in our criminal justice system, so people don't unjustly have their freedom taken away.
Like the freedom of their bodily integrity that you are wanting to literally take away with legislation. I don't know how many times I have to keep on saying this point, but it seems to be the apt point.
Think of the lengths our military goes to prevent civilian casualties in war, often risking our own soldiers' lives to do it. Think of the resources our medical system expends to prolong the life of the terminally ill.
Yes, because the terminally ill choose to be alive for longer in many cases. Although in some cases this is a thing that happens because some people who are terminally ill want assisted suicide. They want euthanasia. Not all, but there are some who want to take that route. When they do, that is also a thing that we here in the United States typically do not allow them to do. We are literally prolonging human suffering, all because we have value on a life existing. We don't seem to care about the quality of that life. David in the chat says abortion is an immoral option. Sure. Cool. I have said it on several videos before. Abortion is immoral. However, it is not only the lesser of two evils when we're juxtaposing it to the revocation of bodily integrity, but it is, whilst also being immoral in that sense, it is the lesser of those two evils, and because of that, it is the necessary evil. Go ahead and call it immoral. That's fine. I'll bite the bullet on it being evil. But the mere fact that something is arbitrarily labeled as evil or immoral does not change the fact that functionally it is a necessary evil currently. If at some point we can find a way to streamline the foster care system so that every child born gets a high quality of life, and also we find a way to pull even the smallest zygote from a mother's womb in order to breed them in a tube, where functionally it will be exactly the same nutritionally and everything for them. If we find ourselves in that idealistic society where the child does not have to rely on the mother's womb, and the mother does not have to accept the child, and the child can be put into the foster care system, and the foster care system does not suck for the child, if we live in that idealistic society, you might pull me to the side of pro-life. But unfortunately, we live in a very gross world. We live in a world that is not idealistic. Because we live in reality, which is that world, we unfortunately have to deal with the messy consequences of being in that world. It sucks, it's not fun, but until we find a world that is better for the people in it, I'm gonna have to be pro-choice. I'm sorry. I am perfectly fine biting the bullet on abortion being immoral or abortion being evil because it is a premeditated murder. Cool. I don't care. I don't think that that's anywhere near good enough for the argument because it functions without it.
Respect for human life is who we are as Americans. It is right there in the Declaration of Independence. You can't have liberty and the pursuit of happiness without the right to life.
Okay, so when I did my Steven Crowder video, my first one, I made a mistake. It's an addendum that I put in my comment section, but I would like to reinforce that addendum here because it is so pertinent to this. Steven Crowder made the point that you do not have a constitutional right to an abortion, which, as it turns out, is true because he was careful enough for the first time in his fucking life to say constitutional. Correct. I mistakenly said that the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness was constitutional. No, that is something that is in the Declaration of Independence, which is less a legal document and more a part of the country's history. The pursuit of happiness part of there was a crux for one of my arguments. And here, again, we have Nikki using one of those arguments that works infinitely better for the pro-choice position, and she's trying to manhandle and squeeze it into the pro-life box. Being forced to carry a fetus to term, or a child to term, whatever term you want to use, it doesn't matter. My arguments have this lovely benefit of functioning with personhood being granted at conception. So I don't have to actually use terribly careful language here. I can use whatever I want because it functions separate of all that. It is a violation of that ability to pursue happiness to revoke the ability for them to have their own bodily integrity. If you're going to say that that woman who I brought up in the example before, who was 3 years in medical school, now has to give up happiness and also being a great benefit to society in order to be forced to become a mother, if you're going to say that that is not somehow a violation on their ability to pursue happiness, and here we go. Here we go. An Emerald Cat in the chat, how is a fetus that has no higher brain function equal to a fully formed woman who contributes to society? That is because their definition of life would include somebody in a vegetative state. However, luckily, like I said before, the types of arguments that I use are ones that function even if we grant full personhood to the fetus from conception. I'm willing to grant that it has every right that a person has when they are fully formed and fully cognizant. Unfortunately, one of those rights is not the right to another person's body. That is not a right that we grant. And because of that, personhood doesn't fucking matter. And how much of the video is left? 4 minutes, but if it seems like she's going into just back padding at the end, then we'll go ahead and end her video and move on to something else. And Undead Slayer, for the last time, sirs, it's the due process clause of the 14th Amendment, which was the dissenting judgments agreed with despite voting against Roe v. Wade. No, I understand that. I was pointing out that even if you did not run with the constitutional thing, the Declaration of Independence thing that she brought in here functionally works for the pro-choice side. I fully understand that it is the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that does, in fact, grant that. And those were mistakes that I made during the Crowder video.
That's why Susan B. Anthony's list work is so important. You understand we need laws and lawmakers who will protect the right to life, to ensure those in Washington share our values. You have activated a nationwide network of more than 700,000 Americans ready to educate our fellow citizens on pro-life issues.
700,000 willing to educate people on how to revoke bodily integrity from your fellow females. Oh, what a wonderful world we live in.
You work tirelessly to support pro-life candidates, especially women, and advocate for policies that save lives.
And advocate for policies that actively hurt the quality of life of anybody involved. Yeah, okay.
I'm an optimist. Our national history makes it easy to be an optimist. We often toss around words like liberty and freedom without appreciating how groundbreaking they were 250 years ago.
Yeah, it's cool. But, there's a point that was brought up in my chat here from Woden Toad, which is cool. I actually agree with this point. If you are going to be pro-life, then shouldn't you also be doing everything in your power to make sure that birth control is free? Because areas that have free birth control have a much lower infant mortality rate. They have a much lower rate of abortions. They also have a much lower rate of STIs and STDs. This also mirrors states that have higher sex ed, or better sex ed. Places that have predominantly abstinence-only sex ed tend to find themselves in the red zone on abortions. They find themselves in the red zone on STIs and STDs. They find themselves in the red zone on all the bad shit. But, it's okay. Just be pro-life, Trump 2020, and all that other fun, dumb shit.
When the colonies declared their independence, it was a bold experiment, the likes of which the world had never seen. The odds were not in their favor. War, famine, disease, discord, any number of disasters could have destroyed the revolution in its infancy. And yet, here we are today, the most powerful and generous country in human history. America cannot escape her exceptionalism. The values that give birth to our nation and live in all of us. They live in the spirit of this country, and they cannot be snuffed out.
So American exceptionalism is really close to patriotism, which is just a couple degrees of separation away from nationalism. I'm not saying that makes her a nationalist, and that's not my point. I just wanted to point out that I think the idea of a particular country exceptionalism is silly, for the same reason that I think something like brand loyalty is silly.
In her last speech before her death in 1906, Susan B. Anthony declared, quote, "Failure is not an option."
And according to you, abortion shouldn't be one either?
She was right then, and she's right today. We Americans have a wonderful way of living up to our destiny. The citizens of this country are good-hearted, generous, and brave. For all of our problems and all of our sins, we are blessed to live in the greatest country in the world. Even when we falter, we rise up. Even when we veer, we find our way.
Okay, so it's just backpatting at this point. Yeah, that's Cassandra Coldman, as a person with cerebral palsy, getting pregnant may put more strain on my body than most. What about my right to life? You are correct there. That's somewhat close to the darker point I was going to make, but I still don't want to make that darker point. But it seems to be mostly back padding. We'll try for a few more seconds, see where we go.
Take heart and remember, no matter the struggle,
Thank you for subscribing, Andy Bowie, by the way.
no matter the lows, life will prevail.
And it will be absolute fucking shit because of people like you. Got it. Excellent. Cool.
Some people are afraid to talk about the pro-life cause because it's too personal, too uncomfortable. Well, of course it's personal.
What is more uncomfortable than a pro-lifer trying to constantly frame this in a way that it's literally killing babies to be a pro-choicer? That's way more uncomfortable, just saying.
What can be more personal than the right to live?
Yeah, that's a thing that is personal and right, but so is the right to bodily integrity. But you know, that's a messy topic for you.
If we want to make a difference in the world, we have to embrace the personal and the uncomfortable.
Yes, like the uncomfortable inevitability that trying to revoke a particular cisgender's rights to bodily autonomy and integrity is not a good thing. Like, revoking that is not a good thing. And I get that it's uncomfortable for you to not be able to have that level of control over 50% of the population, but you're going to have to live in the uncomfortable reality where you don't get that level of control.
Even though I'm a private citizen now, I know I'm too young to stop fighting. I'm loud and proud and will always fight for the things I believe in. Like Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Okay, so this was literally just a giant emotional appeal. So, story time. The reason that I did this video, aside from the fact that I'm trying to focus on two things right now. One is NIFB. Two is the abortion stuff, because I do live in a state where this directly affects me. I find that when I see a news article, because I had a few of them shoved at me about this person and their meeting that they had here, and there were a lot of people that were saying that she was literally fucking over feminists, and I agree. When I see something like this, that's exactly where I have to be. I do not know what this person's policies are on anything else personally, but I'm willing to check. You know what, actually? Nikki Haley. Let us see here. Ooh, what is this? What is this? Oh, Nikki Haley. You're a flaming piece of shit! What interesting things we have found on you. So, Nikki Haley opposed marriage equality as both the South Carolina state representative and governor, fought in court to the end to stop marriage equality in her states for LGBTQ or GSRN individuals, rejected matching funds for a program offering HIV medication to lower-income patients. So you don't just fuck over the poor when you're talking about revoking bodily integrity rights, you're also fucking over the poor when you want to revoke medication. Okay. Oh, speaking of fucking over the poor, she was in favor of the voter ID laws, which it has been pretty thoroughly demonstrated, literally, along with gentrification, does nothing but fuck over minority races in the United States. Oh, come on. Come on, Nikki. Why are you a flaming piece of human garbage? Why? That's so awkward. That is so awkward. Let's see here. Ah, da, 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 da. Oh, let's. Okay, I don't want MSNBC News. I just want to look at your site. There we go. Okay, cool. So, even though. Okay, cool. So, we also have inconsistency here. Because she routinely tried to fight against marriage equality in the United States. However, whilst being a United States ambassador, she said there was a no vote from the United States in support of the death penalty for people who are LGBTQ. So the United States voted no for that because of her, which is, or I guess as a part of that, which is cool. But then you're inconsistent when allowing them basic rights like marriage equality. Okay, cool. So, let's see what else we can find on you. You seem to be a wonderfully interesting person, and the fact that we can find so much stuff on you is just neat. So, if anybody here is familiar with the site On the Issues, it is a wonderful, wonderful website that helps when you are trying to figure out somebody's political stance on multiple things. It is not the end-all, be-all, but it is a very, very good resource. So, where is this one? Boom. We're going to go ahead and make it to where you guys can see this a little better. Nikki Haley on budget and economy. We don't really need that side there. Go ahead and boom. Okay, cool. So we already know Nikki Haley on abortion. She's pro-life because someone saved her husband's life, which is functional. That means fucking nothing. Every life is blessed by God. Blah 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 blah. This hasn't been updated for her new stuff. Civil rights. No need for any new transgender bathroom law. That's... I don't know what that means specifically, whether that means that we didn't need protections or whether they didn't need a specific one that was barring people. Accused of lack of diversity in her cabinet. Minority and women groups are just special interest groups. And marriage should be between one man and one woman. Okay. No, you're fucking wrong on those, but, you know, neat. She's on crime. Let us see here. Here we are. On drugs. Hard on drugs stance. Okay, so she's pro... I guess that means that she is pro the war on drugs, which we know from research has been functionally much, much worse. In fact, actually, creating that black market has been the best thing for drug dealers since fucking sliced bread. Let us see here. On education. Incentivizing work in rural districts. Okay. Higher education system is flush with cash. Incentives for teachers, including tuitions in grad school. Okay. Make a real investment in our charter schools. Educate kids not based on where they happen to live. I don't know what that necessarily means. And expand charter schools. Okay. So, public versus charter schools. Charter schools are public schools of choice, meaning that families can choose them for their children. They operate with the freedom of some regulations that are imposed upon district schools. Oh, yeah, that's like Brown Barnes Middle School. I went to one of those. Okay, cool. No issued stance yet recorded for families and children. On free trade, government reform, gun control, homeland security, on jobs. Oh, okay, cool. She's one of these guys. She's apparently against unionization. Yeah, no. Non-union Boeing jobs in South Carolina did not cost one union job. Right to work helps Boeing deliver jets despite strikes. No, right to work is a horrible, horrible fucking policy. If you've ever lived in a right to work state, then you understand why it is really fucking awful to be in right to work. A right to work state, for those who don't know, is a state where any company, if they choose to, can divorce you from the company, so fire you, no matter what. They don't even have to have a paper trail for anything. The only thing a paper trail is needed for in a right to work state is whether or not they may have to sign for unemployment for you. It also means that you, as the employee, are not contractually obliged to stay with any company. You can leave at any point because you have the right to work. It's not a right to work thing. It's a right to fire. It's one of those weird misnomers, like how pro-life is a fucking misnomer because it's not actually pro-life. It's just pro-control. Right to work is more just right to fire. That's functionally how it manifests. Pledge that every citizen who wants a job has a job. Well, that's funny because that's not the reality we live in. No unemployment benefits for workers on strike. I'm iffy on that one because on the one hand, strikes are there so that workers can have some control over the businesses that they are part of. This is one of the reasons why workers owning the means of production is a more social ideal. So I do like the idea of strikes, because they mean that people who want reform, want better wages, want things like that, can then get those things. Forcing, I understand there could be a level of abuse that could happen by forcing companies to pay unemployment benefits for them. So I'm a bit torn on that. I don't know. Local issues. South Carolina's the best in the Southeast. Principle and values. Local government needs to be more accountable. Oh, here's one. Removing religion from public discourse is entirely wrong. Well, if the public discourse is of legal variety, then no, removing religion from it is actually correct. That's what needs to be there. My Sikh dad proudly wears his turban over uncut hair. That's fine. Converted to Christianity to marry Michael and raise children. Converted to Christianity because of marriage. I really don't like this. I think that if you have a religion, you should not be forced to change your religion because of the person who you are marrying. I think that that's wrong and it's stupid because your religion is supposed to be your personally held belief. It is supposed to be a set of structures and ethics and ethos and everything for you specifically. It should not be something that you get to impose on someone else or that you have to change because of somebody else. It should be your personal thing. Accused of affairs. I don't care about that so much. Calling me a raghead enforces SC's worst stereotypes. Not Republican government, but conservative government. Functionally here in the United States, those are almost the same thing. There's only a few degrees of separation between the two. Member of the Tea Party movement. Social Security reduced rampant poverty, according to her, among the elderly, which is true, which is helpful. It's almost like whenever somebody says, ew, icky socialism, nobody should have free money. Sorry, but we already have some things that are quite socialistic in their setup. It's almost like they're actually really helpful for benefiting society. It's kind of why they're structured the way they are. Give them a few months and others will proclaim Christianity as a race. There are some religions that actually do that. There's not some religions, but there are some manifestations. There's a particular manifestation of... we just got a new subscriber. Rebecca Rica has just subscribed. Thank you very much. But there is a polytheistic variant called folkism that actually does do that, where like you have to be a particular race to be there. It's white supremacist. It's white supremacism masked in an otherwise harmless religion, but it is used to great harm in that regard, which is really unfortunate. So no, that's actually a thing that happens. Invest in infrastructure, but no gas tax or any other tax. No, sorry, there should be a tax there as far as I'm concerned. The longer we use fossil fuels, the more we fuck the planet. More cybersecurity against international criminal hacking. That's fine. Deepen the Port of Charleston. Return to greatness. I'm not familiar with that at all, actually. Trade welfare for dignity of paycheck. I don't know what that means. For the full quote on welfare and poverty. Okay, so here's her full quote. I can't scroll to it, unfortunately. It's not letting me. I am sorry. I've often heard the complaint that there were too many dependent on government assistance. There was a belief that some of our fellow South Carolinians were choosing to remain on welfare rather than get a job. I don't believe that. Previously, with Washington having its way, we would handle welfare recipients by asking a few simple questions, effectively checking a box, and handing over a check, easy in, easy out. But no one improves their lot in life that way. Now we do things differently. We dig deeper. We ask them about their skills. What are they good at? And then we find them a job. Yes, it seems like a simple concept, but here's the deal. It works. Since starting this program in 2011, we have moved more than 20,000 South Carolinians from welfare to work. Okay, cool. As long as I didn't remove welfare from people who didn't need it, then I don't care. We should be proud of this program, but more than that, we should be proud of those workers, those South Carolinians who traded the false stability of a welfare check for the true dignity of a well-earned paycheck. You are aware that like stability and dignity are two categorically separate things, so trading one for another doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm sorry, that's just Also, Multiple Stripes in the chat said that I want a lot of social reforms, and back pain is like, I know what back pain is like. Because whilst I do not have an actually good computer chair, I have a back pillow that I harvested from our old couch. That is the only reason that I'm able to actually stay here and do this without, like, crippling my back. So, no. It does seem like there are some things that this person advocates for legislation-wise. I might have accidentally doxed somebody that way. Let's get that out of the way. It does look like there are some issues that she's good on. It does, and it looks like there are some other ones, like with any politician, that I absolutely fucking hate. We'll fundraise you a good chair. I should probably point this out. Someone has already said, actually, that they want to grab me and Raz both computer chairs because I work from home. I do this for you guys. And on top of that, Raz is trying to find a job where she can work from home. She's currently got an agent that is trying to find her a position. While that is going on, this person has said that they want to fund us both getting chairs, which is awesome and great. But it did lead me to realize that there's a thing that I did not have that I set up once before, and then I kind of dropped off of using it. And that was an Amazon wish list. I've since set that up in the description. If you guys want to do anything with it, then that's cool. If not, that's also cool. There's some stuff in there that is necessary for work, like some RAM and video card and stuff for upgrading my computer for making videos. There's also some stuff in there that's just for leisure, like card sleeves and stuff for card games. So if you want to grab stuff for leisure, if you want to grab stuff for helping me with my work, like more studio lights and more soundproofing stuff that I'm going to be setting up here in the next few days, then hey, that's what it's there for. You don't have to. Obviously, this is not me trying to say you should do any of this. This is just me saying that is a thing that is there now, which is neat. Alias Fake Name says, if your chair is uncomfortable, you should borrow Erin's chair. I would love to, because she actually has a good gaming chair, but I'm not going to take her chair from her. I'm not. That's not a thing that I'm going to do. So, anywho. God of All Panda says, someone should cover anime Renee. Actually, God of All Panda, did you see that me and Vosh covered anime just a few days ago? Or like I think it was like a week ago now. But we covered anime, actually. That was a thing that I wanted to do because her channel's a cesspool. It's very much just like laughs in 4chan. Laughs in cute anime 4chan. It is all her channel is. So, anywho, I figure if there's not anything else that we want to get into in this one, this might be a shorter stream, an hour and a half. I know that's about the length that we go for with Hammered Out, but usually not the length we go for with stuff like this. But I don't think there's really any much more to cover here, as far as I know. Track Worker Sisters is an Amazon shill list. Oh no. Yeah, basically. Put new plan. Put anime on Slanderson's Facebook. Infect Steven Anderson with anime. Do it. Especially if the anime contains pumpkins. Many, many pumpkins. Sonic Hammered Out when... But it's... Aaron, no. I don't... Why are you... Aaron, why? Why are you... Why have you just thrown a chair at me? Well, if it's here... Ah. Why? I can't... Raz putting that Ethernet cable over there has made this very hard. I guess I'm doing this now. I guess I'm... Oh, that is so much better. Oh god, why is it so far back? How? Okay, that's how we straighten it out. There we go. Okay, I'm only going to use this for the duration of the stream. I'm giving this back to her afterwards. This is very comfortable, and Aaron deals with more pain than I do. So no, I don't need to be in this until I get my own. Anywho, I guess I just got chaired, basically. Renata Chan in the chat says Sonic the Hedgehog Hammered Out episode when. So the Sonic thing that I want to do is not going to be a Hammered Out episode because it's not something for that format. But it is a live stream that I want to do. I am unsure when. Probably here in the next few weeks, actually. Send me DMs. We'll figure that out because I still want to do that. I'll just have to figure out when and how and what I want to do, and we will figure that out. Also, Multiple Stripes. If you want, go check Ocean Keltoy's channel out. He actually has a recap of the pumpkin fiasco and why it is how it is currently. Here, allow me to go Ocean Keltoy pumpkin. Is that... No, I'm not going to find it that way. Am I? Aha! Yep, the Pumpkin Saga.
Oh, my.
Here we are. This is the thing to watch afterwards. The Pumpkin Saga. There you go. That'll catch you up. Neil Stone says, do a Hunter video. I know you usually don't react to it in this format, but please do it. I want to react to... I want to give Hunter his due. I want to react to him in a standard video. And I may do that. But until then, and especially because the stream is starting to get a little longer, I'm going to deal with all that later. Currently, I need to run to the store to grab food for our cat, because we did just take him to the vet today and found out that she needs to be on kitten food because that's the only way we're going to be able to get her back up to weight. I also need to get a few more groceries. So that's an important thing that I've got to do. You should do fan art, my dude. I believe, is there new fan art that I need to put in? Hold on, let me check. I could be wrong. Aha! There has been new fan art submitted, and I am just as bad as usual for not putting it in when I was supposed to. So, the first fan art that is in, this one is... don't copy. Why is... I hate when it's put in as image 0. Just copy and replace. One of them's getting replaced real quick. Or don't. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this. Image 0 1, and it's gonna delete that one there, but we're gonna put it back in. Don't worry. This is not the new one. This is the one from Disco Scone. I just need to get this one smaller again, and then boom. We should now have an elf Cirrus. Is it not here? What is wrong? Why is it not here? Okay, cool. I guess we're just gonna delete you and put it in like this. Aha! There it is. All right, we have an elf Cirrus that was submitted by Three-Eyed Cat. This is, I believe, the second one that they have submitted. But that one is there, and that was submitted about 40 minutes ago because I'm a bad person. And then we have one from Ghost Luna Chan. And this one is Cirrus as a doggo. Very doggo. This is many much Bork doggo Cirrus. It wags tail for you. You just put it right over here. Right in the middle of all of these. There we go. Doggo Cirrus is there. There we are. Very, very, very Cirrus. Very dog. Much bark. Very Borf. And that is all the stuff that has been submitted throughout the course of this stream. So. Anywho, Heike would really love to see your guys' cats on stream sometime. Yumi is not in the room with me right now, otherwise I would grab her. But there we go. Whew. But wait, maybe I'm the Illuminati. Okay. Anywho, that all said, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you did, leave a like and share it with your friends. You know, all that other fun stuff. If not, then my DMs are open. You can tell me how much you hate me. The comment section's also there for telling me how much you hate me. I am going to go ahead and take care of my responsibilities that I have to do as an animal owner and an adult. So, I'm going to go do that. Wow, this chat got very H. Why did the chat get so H randomly? Hello? How are you? Why am I getting head paps? Is it because of this? Did this happen? That's what it is, isn't it? Why am I getting head papping? This is very H, guys. I guess we're going to end on that note.